Hello again, this is Andrew from Offshore Audio. Following on from last week's video on PFL/solo meters and following signal using those tools, I've decided to look into routing inside and outside of the console. If you want to see last week's video, I'll link to it up here. And this week's video will handle more about getting the sound into the console, sending the sound from buses to other places inside the console, and also getting it out of the console on physical output. So without further ado, let's dive in. So digital mixers are incredibly versatile. You can take things in and out and manipulate them in so many different ways. It's incredible. They're fantastic, but there is a certain learning curve to them, and you need to know a certain amount before you can really feel comfortable on them. So I think covering the inputs and the outputs and the buses is a great place to start. So let's dive in. So getting sound into the console. How do we do that? I like to think of these channels, these faders, as looking for sound. So we've got 2 pages of faders that are just looking for sound. They want to be filled with sound. But we need to tell them where to look. How do we do that? We need to find the menu, the setting where we can tell them where to look. So over here, I'm going to go to routing. This could be different on other consoles, but the principle remains the same. You might have to go to setup, you might have to go to I/O, input, output, something like that. But the principle, as I said, remains the same. On this console, when I go to my input, I can route the input in blocks, okay? Blocks of 8. So that means that fader 1 to 8 here on this first page, channel 1 to 8, is looking for sound where? Let's tell it. Local 1 to 8. What does that mean? Back of the console here. That's what it means. So I can set these first 16 faders to look for sound on the back of the console. That's great. But what if we want to get our sound from the stage? If we've got a digital stage box connected, we want to tell these faders to look to the stage for sound from the band or the act or whatever you're mixing. So I can tell them to look for AES 1 to 8 on both of them, because AES-A is my device here. Now these faders are looking to the stage. When you plug in a microphone on the stage, you'll be able to select the channel you plugged it into and change the settings on it, turn it up, and hear that sound. Fantastic. You need to know this because what if you come in and everything is set to local, but you want it to come from the stage? You need to know how to fix that problem, because if you don't know how to route the sound, you'll just be stuck, unable to get sound into your mixer. Let's move on to buses. I've got them over here. So I like to think of them as master faders who are looking to these input channels. They're looking inside the console for their sound. They want to collect a group of signals, combine them, and send them on somewhere. So how do we tell these guys, these buses, where to look for signals? We can select them, and somehow you can place the sends on the fader. I have a button here in this console. You might have to go into a menu to find this setting. Double tap is common as well. But now this bus 1, is saying, tell me what channels to look at for sound. And we can tell it to look over here, 1 by 1. And in differing amounts. Alternatively, we can select the channels that we want to send to the bus. So if we select the kick drum, you want to tell the bus to look there, we turn this dial up. Select the kick drum and turn bus sends up, bus 1, and then it goes. What about outputs? They're a little different, and I like to think of it as the physical output on the back of the console or on the stage. I like to think of the physical output that's looking for sound. That XLR point on the stage is saying, where am I getting sound from? Tell me where to get the sound so I can send it on to the monitor or the speakers. So how do we do that? Again, it's in the menu, in the routing or the I/O. We move over in this console, and you can see these output points, output 1 through 16. So I select output 1, and I tell output 1, I'll tell you where to get your sound. How about bus 1? So now output 1 says, great, I will look at bus 1, and whatever happens on bus 1, it's coming out here on an XLR or whatever. But you can, of course, tell it to look wherever you want. You could tell it to look to bus 8 if you wanted. Nothing to stop you sending bus 8 out of physical output 1. But the main takeaway here is that it's your physical outputs that you are telling to look inside the console. So a quick recap. Input channels. You need to tell them where to look in the physical world to find a microphone. Am I looking at the desk? Am I looking at the stage? Buses. You need to tell them which channels in the digital mixer, inside the mixer, which channels will they get sound from and how much of each. Outputs. You need to tell the physical output on the console or the stage or wherever which bus or which sound source it needs to look to get its signal. Hopefully that cleared something up for you. Let me know if there's anything else you'd like me to cover in these videos. If you like and subscribe to them, then that helps me know to keep them coming. If you want to learn more about everything that's on the stage, all the signals, cables and ins and outs on the actual stage, I have a free workshop that you can get, and I'll link to that down below in the description. Leave me a comment as well if there's just anything you have to say about this. Tell me any routing troubles that you've had with digital mixers. Tell me a funny story if you've got one. Thanks a lot.